Good time of day to all of you, my friends, here on the Internet Chess Club. This is Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky, and today we'll talk about Chess Olympiad, obviously. Good time of day to all of you, my friends, here on the Internet Chess Club. Well, that's obviously the event we all been waiting for, and this is the time when all the best players in the world, they get together for a gigantic... Okay, let me get rid of that phone calls. Last thing I want now. Anyways, yeah, well, we'll get together. Obviously, Magnus Carlsen is not there, but, well, the year of the World Championship match, and obviously Magnus had some issues this year. It's not like he played so badly. No, he had sort of his usual performance, all in all, but usual by the standards of the last 2 years. Well, gone are the days when he was totally dominating premier events in classical chess, elite tournaments. No, he is not anymore. And Caruana made some strides, we all know that. And no, well, probably Magnus decided it would be better for him to avoid the aggravation of playing for all the scrutiny and the media attention, playing Olympiads. He never really liked that, and he struggled. Well, he had some bad games always. I remember that Tromsø Olympiad, that was not a good result for Magnus Carlsen at all. So he decided to not to show up there, which of course, is a disappointment for a lot of fans and also his teammates in the Norwegian team. Understandable. But Caruana is there, and Caruana had actually quite a nice game today. He beat Anand. We'll look at this little later. Well, Caruana is leading the US team that's looking to repeat their success from 2 years ago. And so far all the pieces are in place and everything is working. Caruana is obviously today's win over Anand, and a quick one. Was very important. The Indian team is very strong. Anand is playing for his country for the first time in a decade, if not longer. And they have some good young players to back him up. So India is in contention. I don't have all the results yet, I'm looking at this whole thing. No, that some games are still in progress. But I can show you the critical matches over there. That's not very accurate. Let me see if I can make it. If I can make it maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, let me see. Sorry about that. As always, we experimenting as we go. Would that fit? I suppose it does. Yeah, okay, so these are the top tables. Now, of course, there are more players, more teams with the perfect score. 16 points after 3 rounds. So that's match points that count, remind you, of course, those of you who go way back, following Chess Olympiads, you remember it was always by board points when all the results were combined. But it has been replaced to a match point system. Really made things different. Really it did. I mean, board points are still important as tiebreak, but no, nonetheless matches. You gotta win matches. And, well, so far... I mean, before this round, actually, all the favorites, they won all their matches. That would include China and the US and Russia and Azerbaijan, Armenia, as you can see, France. France had the best overall score leading to today's round. They had 11.5 out of 12. Well, Iran is interesting young team led by Mahsoudlu, the rising star who just convincingly won the World Junior Championship. Well, good young players over there, but facing Czech Republic today. Now, of the results I know, starting from the top, it's difficult to find those games because everything's kind of random and you have to sift through a lot of games to group them by matches. I wasn't able to find the Washeva Graf game. Don't know the result over there. I know that France won on board 4, Christian Bauer won. And some other games were still in progress. Israel, Sweden, some strange result in the game between Ilya Smirin and Eric Blomqvist. It's listed as 1-0, although White's position is not better at all after 40 moves. Perhaps Blomqvist lost on time. Don't know about others, except that I saw that Gelfand was defending a tough endgame against Niels Grandelius. Now, the US team, of course, win by Fabiano and a draw from Hikaru Nakamura. Haven't seen other results yet. No, anyway. I don't really intend the show to be, well, what you call it, kind of up-to-date report. I'm really not equipped to do this, and there are better websites. I mean, any website would be better than me. I'm trying to do too many things at the time, and I'm just a one-man operation here, of course. Yeah, Gelfand lost, actually. France top 3 boards drew, so that's basically... Yeah, that means that France won their match, because Bauer won. Gelfand lost, but Israel won. Yeah, I actually saw some of the games. So, the US team, I don't know, maybe you could help me out and tell me what happened in the other games where the American players had the black pieces. That would be Wesley So game and Sam Shankman's game. Now, is the US planning to play the top 4? Probably most of the time. I mean, Ray Robson, not to his fault, but... No, well, Sam Shankman obviously made great strides this year, winning the US Championship and playing exceptionally well and winning three more tournaments, I believe, or 2 more tournaments after that in a row, the Capablanca Memorial, and he won something else. Oh, the American Continental. So Sam is on a roll, and don't take into account his loss to Washeva Graf in Fischer Random Chess, you know. No, well, it's a different game, whatever. You know. So, as far as classical chess goes, Sam is really on the rise. And other boards drew, so a good win for the US, you know. They got by India. No, well, that's the first tough... No, all matches are tough, but it's the first team among the favorites that they defeated. Many more to come, of course, but oh, it's nice. I would like to start with Wesley and his great win yesterday. Well, that was instrumental. Actually, US was in a bit of trouble in round 2 when they played. Surprisingly, they played against Georgia 3. And there were some suspicious positions, particularly for Sam Shankman, who was down a pawn for nothing. He was able to make a draw. And Fabiano also stood somewhat worse. He had to play accurately to defend. Wesley won in that round, and actually Wesley won every game leading to today's match. I particularly like his game he won in round 3, when the US faced the Dutch team. Well, all good players everywhere, so one win may decide the outcome of the match. So Wesley started with e4, his opponent was Erwin Lamy. The Dutch team, which has a lot of fans, obviously it's a chess country and a great tournament in YKNZ in still there. Great chess tradition, every chess player loves Holland. appreciates what they've done for chess. Of course, great names of the past, Mike Sawyer, Jan Timman, or many others. But it's interesting, and to my kind of outside look at this, they always have talented young players that come up, and they appear to be very good and very young. I remember previous generations, guys like Stellwagen, and even before, the Piquet obviously showed a lot of promise. And then there was Stellwagen, there were some other guys there. They looked like they're poised to become top players, but somehow they never did. And now the team, I'm looking at this, there's only one young player, Jordan Van Forest. Giri, obviously, no, Giri is a superstar, but he's not a homegrown talent. Yeah, but then the other three boards are occupied by old hands. Lamy is among them. He's not a youngster anymore. But then we have Luke Van Willy and Sergei Tivyakov. Well, is the Dutch team improving? Probably not. Alright, anyway. So Lamy decided to give it a fight, and instead of standard move bishop c5 favored by Kramnik, he went into a Steinitz setup. The modern version of the Steinitz with the fianchetto of the dark square bishop. But now, delayed d4, but still d4. Well, Wesley doesn't mess around. He knows what he wants. He wants the King's Indian pawn structure. And that's what they got. They played d5. Now, knight e7. That's standard, of course. But it's interesting to compare this with the classical variation of the King's Indian. Obviously, white square bishop's gone from the board. That is true. But black has the knights where they want them, right? Everything is proceeding on schedule, so f5. But before you go f5, since white is going to keep the knight on f3, black is going to have to play h6 to prevent the white knight from coming to e6, which is bad enough even with the light square bishop still present, but without it, it would be a total disaster. Does black have other options if we go back? Knight b8, right? No, putting the knight on e7 pretty much commits black to this play with f5. I know you say what else to do in the King's Indian, but no, the situation's somewhat different here. As I said, like this, the bishop on c8 is gone. Well, it probably makes black's attack less effective, because there will be no sacrifice on h3, right? The critical moment. When f5 is played and f4 and g5 and all that stuff. In the end, it's almost always bishop takes h3. Look at games of Nakamura that he won against Beliavsky, Gelfand, and some others. Well, but here is a different situation. Black avoids having that terrible knight on e7, which only has one future after the center is closed to go to h4 and sacrificed himself on g2. But in this situation, there's a chance of getting to the c5 square. Yeah. Well, yes and no. If it follows traditional patterns, then it's probably real good for white. But maybe black should play it slightly differently. Well, he also benefits a little bit from the trade of the bishops, because there's just less congestion over there. The bishop sits on c8, as you very well know, for many moves, and the only option is to play bishop takes h3 at some moment. There is really nothing else to do. But now the rooks are connected. Maybe black can play c6 at some moment. Maybe he can even go the different way with some h5 and going bishop h6, but I don't really know. What I know, however, that in this variation, if black plays knight c5, which he can do, trying to disrupt white's setup, which is supposed to be c4 and then knight c3. Now, if you play knight c3, you go ahead of your c-pawn, which is needed for your attack on the queen side. Hello, Marcus. No, I wouldn't say, that Erwin Lamy does not understand chess. No, well, a kind of a sweeping statement. Well, I mean, I'm actually good for a sweeping statement here and there, but I'll hold my peace in that department. Yes, I'm thinking maybe that disrupts black somehow, white somehow. Knight d2 is ugly. If you put knight f3 to d2, then, well, bishop remains on c1. But white can solve this problem with the move b4. Now, this is interesting, because in this position is queen d3. And the knight from e4 has nowhere to go. Yet, I wouldn't be 100% sure about the outcome of all this. Yeah, you get the two knights, but black gets to complete his development, go f5, e4. White's not well developed yet. There could be some problems on the diagonal, right? I mean, you have to take, you can't improve otherwise. There. Oh, castles. f5's unstoppable, followed by e4. And the bishop gets to open over there. I don't know, maybe c6 at some moment. Black obviously needs to open some files. If he had the c file already open, I would actually prefer black, with the rook and waiting on the c file. But still, you have to play c6. Maybe it's better for white, but... Then again, what do you do, right? You're facing a superior player. Well, superior in what? In all aspects of the game? No, maybe. But still, no matter how superior you are over your opponent, where there is always a little bit of fear and concern that, well, things may go out of control, and the opponent may create threats. Most high-rated players, they want more stability. They want to play, as they say, for two results. They don't necessarily go for a large advantage out of the opening. Certainly Wesley is not that kind of guy. He will play his stuff. Well, but they don't want to give the opponent a chance for tactical play, so perhaps it's the best strategy. I really don't think, that Lamy or any kind of guy from that kind of level, that category, whatever you call it, tier, has a whole lot of chance of outplaying Wesley So in a long game. Most likely it's going to be the other way around. From my own experience, I played against lower rated players, and I probably more often than a similar player of my stature, if you wish, would if I lived in Europe or in Russia. In the US, it's always open tournaments and always low-rated players that you meet until, and if you go through them, then you get to play people of your own size in the end, in money games. So, and I remember how it is. Every time there's a situation like this, I become a little concerned, because who knows, I can make a mistake and lose control, and then the opponent can develop his play and just roll. It happened in this tournament, in Olympiad as well. There were some upsets. So, I don't know, but Lamy had this somewhat unhealthy combination for this game of trying to play solidly, trying to play the moves that seem right and seem acceptable, and yet he starts off with somewhat inferior setup of the King's Indian. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but I think that's the path to defeat, particularly against somebody like Wesley. Let's not talk about wives and girlfriends, and all that, It's a difficult subject for me, because my wife is in Lithuania with her parents, already been there for 2 months, I miss her terribly, so I don't want to be reminded of that, so let's just climb up on that talk, well, I'm in no mood, to discuss that issue. Sorry about that. Anyways, so what do we have here? Yeah, knight e7, that's standard. And now, well, you know what, if I would suggest taking with the queen. I know we're not really going for f5 that quick, but well, I have this bishop out there and traded, maybe I can play c6 and rook c8. It's funny how a lot of people don't understand the value of c6 in such positions. Okay, let me play a few moves. They say, why you doing c6? Aren't you just helping your opponent by opening the c file? The difference is that black can open it on his own terms. When white gets to put his pawns on b4 and c5, he gets to choose what to do and take on d6 only when it suits his purposes. Otherwise, there could be even c6. So here there may be some tension over there. Well, I mean, I'm not quite sure. I would like to play a6 and b5, but then, of course, I worry about knight a4. I'm just curious about this. It's totally different strategy. But anyway, he didn't play this. He went all standard. And now, as I already mentioned, the problem is that f5 cannot be played right away because of knight g5. And Wesley times his play very accurately. Pay attention to this, please. He didn't play the obvious move knight c3 because he needed to get that bishop out. Now, pull the knight back and meet f5 with f3. Now the dark square bishop is safe. And knight c3 is going nowhere. White's setup is complete. Now, well, if nothing else to do, Lamy follows. Okay, knight c3, knight g6. Possibly he was thinking in terms of just keeping the rook on h8 and the king in the center. It's unusual because in the king's Indian, well, we always have to castle, even before we play e5, right? Maybe he was trying to derive some benefit from that position of the rook. I don't know how that would work out, but I really don't know. But maybe that was the point of his play. But we never got to find out. Because Wesley goes c5. I feel good for Wesley, so, he feels liberated, I think, playing this tournament. I mean, this never-ending grind of playing same players, the top players in the world, and all different forms and shapes of chess, be it rapid or blitz or classical, and over again, a Grand Chess Tour, and I mean, then I'm free, I'm out there, I'm free, and then it's just liberating. And he's willing to take more risks, and his game, well, which I felt that was kind of robbed of its colors. I really didn't like the way Wesley played in the past, well, this year entirely. I didn't like his chess. It was honestly quite boring, and suddenly the colors are back, the excitement is back. He sacks this pawn. Why? Oh, because he wants to beat black to the punch, right? To make sure that black forgets about this attack with h5 and g4, because he has some issues to deal with. First hit is on the b7 pawn, forced. And now, the second sacrifice. I actually don't think it was that necessary. Even the standard play with knight c4, followed by a4, a5, seemed interesting to me, because I'm not sure black would want to meet a4 with a5. Okay, so let's play some move here. What do we want to play? No, speaking of castles here, that white can go d6, right? Once again, the diagonal. No, I agree with Marcus. No, it's a lot less threatening, but we never got to find out, as I said, because Wesley just started his attack by means of pawn sacrifice, double pawn sacrifice. No, it's not only Kasparov, who had that bishop on c8. Every King's Indian player had it. I mean, there are hardly any lines in the classical King's Indian, if you go back mentally in the move order in the classical, where they go e5, knight c6, and knight e7. Then they move the knight back from f6, go f5, but they always return with the knight to f6 to force white's move f3. They almost never go f4 when white can play bishop g4. You should remember that, right? So we don't get this kind of position from the King's Indian. Well, we got it from the Roy Lopez, the g6 Steinitz. No, anyway, I was thinking of this, and I mean, what if black digs in, right? Tries to put the bishop on d6. So maybe this will get something going. I'm just curious about it. Well, bishop d6, does it really hold it? No, it does, sort of, but maybe white has long-term pressure on the a-file. But he preferred to more direct plan. He played d6, and now critical position, right here. So Lamy is facing the first difficult situation, decision time. Like, he has to be on alert for various tactics. Things to worry about. Rook d5. But probably more dangerous is knight b5. The point of knight b5 would be to continue with knight b5 takes c7 and then that knight check. Or knight check immediately to get to f7. It's visible in this line. Knight b5. Now there is a threat to take on c7, knight d6, queen f7 mate. Surprisingly, however, black can defend by playing knight c8. It covers d6. Now white can pile up with rook d5. Then we try to get this tempo. Can we do this? Is there rook takes c5? What a mess. Am I getting mated here? It's pretty close to mate. Queen f7 and rook d1. The answer is to go to d6, but white can go after the rook. No, he's gonna win this game, that's for sure. Look, everything's falling apart. May not be made by force, but h8 rook is lost. No, this isn't good. This is terrible. Oh yeah, I played a similar sacrifice many times. It was one of my pet lines, which stems out of the kind of Korchnoi variation when you put the bishop on f2. Similar to this, yeah. In the classical. Knight e1 and then bishop e3, bishop f2, and white quickly goes c5. I had 6 or 7 games there with white. I'm sort of familiar with the concept, but every position is unique. That's why we're trying to figure out the tactics. So if this is not good, because if you cover f7, then you lose c7, and you probably lose the game. Then I suppose that black cannot take on e5. Maybe it goes this. Decisions. Anyway, It's hard to give advice. I mean, I didn't do very well against Wesley when I played him only once, but no excuses for that. I went down in 20-something moves. Kind of just missed one thing out of the opening. It's hard. But still, chess is chess, right? Everything can be proven or disproven or refuted by hard science. Hard science of chess is calculation. Now, I know that Wesley can calculate, but the player facing somebody like Wesley, so, or Vladimir Kramnik, or whoever, just should work twice as hard or 3 times, work his hardest, calculating variations. It's really your only chance. If you drift and you go along, if your opponent wants to do, most likely he knows where he's leading you. No, the dark corner, when things are not going to turn out well for you. Must work hard and calculate and meet the challenge face to face. Maybe in this line, black is doing okay. Rook e6 is ineffective. I just take this guy. Going back there, no, perhaps b5. Now, maybe it was possible to take on e5, but maybe b5 is better. So white also made a gigantic commitment. It goes this, right? Perhaps I didn't play it well enough. I missed knight d5. Alright, forget about b5. Let's try to do this and survive. We need to cover f7. Let's do this. We attacked a knight on e5. Actually, not so bad. Eh? Well, think about from white's point of view. No, he made a huge commitment by sacrificing. He has to come up with some goodies here. No, well, optimism is necessary in chess, but in particular when you play openings like this. Well, let me make a guess. It's an educated guess. A guess, nonetheless, but educated. If Wesley faced somebody like Ilya Smirin, just his name came up because I played him many times, and he's a King's Indian player par excellence, and no, the main thing in Smirin's chess, regardless that he's older now and whatever, is just no fear. And he would look at any tactic, that comes his way. So, he would start calculating tactics. Lamy just struck me as in this game as the guy who had positional ideas, but they weren't backed up by exact calculation. And as far as your chances of surprising Wesley So with your positional mastery, they're quite slim. No, it is scary, but we already said this, no fear. So he goes this way, and he wants to play knight e6, knight d4. No, yeah, of course. Wesley plays rook d5. And now knight e6. Well, I don't think this is attractive at all. I mean, after that, a long castle, right? Can we survive by playing this? Say knight b5. What to do? A fork. King b8 or queen b7. Queen b7 is not good. Check. So I suppose it's king b8. And now white does what? I mean, the knight on d7 is pinned. Okay, so maybe at this moment knight a5 is still not decisive. I don't see any immediate follow-up in the sense of moving that knight away. I suppose I could do this, but then you don't have to play queen b6. I'm aiming at f7 to make that fork and with that also with the pin in mind. Maybe it's actually good for white. Along the way I was able to break up black's pawns. But you got knight b6. No, it doesn't work. Man, I missed knight b6. What do I do? If I do that... Oh, this is nice. And on queen b6 I can come from e6. Now we are talking, right? Plan is very simple, just to take on d8 and then win the exchange on d7. Perhaps the only thing black can do is to play this, but then he must go king c8, right? Black survives again. If knight takes g7, he can unpin. There's still two extra pawns, crippled as they are. Or knight c6 check. Aha! So this... I don't know if I win d7 in the end, because the king now is protecting d7 as well. I can make a draw, or at least a draw, knight e7. Maybe at most. Maybe I can't even make a draw. Still 2 pawns down. Anyway, so somewhere here maybe, but it just never went into any tactics. Look what Lamy did. He played this. Of course, knight takes c5. Alright, he probably counted on the move c4. For sure he did. But somehow c4 does not solve black's problems. Wesley played his queen to a3. Now you can't castle. You do this and check and knight over there. Maybe Irwin saw this line. He just assumed, oh well, there's no way he's gonna go to allow me to escape to the endgame. No, but Wesley has the... I notice it in his games. Well, he can attack like the top player. He also keeps in mind the positional factors that will allow him to go to a better endgame. And even if white is down a pawn in this situation, he actually stands better. Now I probably need to go to my analysis because it's going to be a very interesting moment later in the game. We agreed that white is better, right? He's gonna take the pawn on c7, his leisure. He can also attack the c4 pawn with rook c1. He has the stronghold, pawn on a4 and that knight on d5. But it's so hard for black to play. Don't know what to do. I really don't. Okay, anyway, maybe he played reasonably. Here, there. But white continues to attack. I see some points in the move rook d8. You gotta get the rook into play, and maybe, who knows, maybe at some moment the sacrifice will work. There could be some situations, like, for example, you do this, right, instead of h4. And then rook d8, right? Then you take, feeling good about yourself, but not anymore. Funny how tables turn sometimes, right? But okay, but for a guy like Wesley, unless he's just totally out of time, which of course wasn't the case, he's just never gonna blunder into something like this. h4. Now it creates the h2 square, but there is also this great idea. Check. Now this check, he gets the exchange. Probably black saw it, and he figured, alright, I got my king in this position, which is hopefully a combination of safety and attack, squeezing the white king. The knight remains on c5, a pawn for the exchange. But white has this. This was amazing. It's almost like from endgame studies in chess composition. File clearance and then the king returns. Amazing, right? That rook h1. No choice. Now black has some hopes for back rank mate. Wesley takes care of that. He brings his king out. Now black is sort of stuck, right? He can't really take advantage of the open file because he cannot infiltrate. White in the meantime has a variety of ideas. Well, maybe beginning with rook g7 check, try to push the king off the h-pawn. He could possibly make a switch back playing rook d1. Like in most of such endgames, the exchange of the last rook would spell the end for black. Knight alone cannot possibly match up with the rook. The time for the material gains is still a little bit away. No, made the pawn sacrifice. Probably a good idea. And now went to h5. So now white is a little bit awkward, right? Because the rook on h1 is stuck. It could interplay effectively if we can get that rook around. But there are some things to worry about. Obviously at some moment there could be knight c2 check. So if we swing the rook over to the h file. So after the check we would have to either agree to repetition or step to the d file with the king and allow a discovered check. But Wesley played this first, and the reply was king g6. I am not 100% sure about that. Maybe it was possible just to go h4, based on the lines I saw. But then there is this. Oh boy, check, king up. Nothing else to take but f3, right? Goes king c3. The knight is still under attack and the pawn on f4. Everything may fall apart here. f4 and h4. Check. He goes king b4. Tries to avoid stepping on a square where the black knight could give check from d4 or d2. Goes to b4. What next? Maybe something like this was possible. I don't know. I didn't analyze everything. Anyway, Lamy played king g6, which is okay. So clearly white is not interested in taking this pawn, because then the same idea of knight c2 eventually winning the pawn on f3, no, should be good for black. So Wesley comes up with this. I'm not sure if it's a game move, but there are many interesting moves in this game. Actually, it's a very interesting game. It had the unusual opening, it had this double pawn sacrifice, and then tactics that we try to sort out, probably with no success. And then, well, believe me, it's a very interesting endgame with one strange-looking fortress. Okay, let me show it to you. King g5, now rook d3. And at this moment, Lamy had knight c2 check. So, here's how it goes. You do the unthinkable. You trade. No, you don't play this stupid. That's my mouse sleep. You take. And play that. White actually cannot protect the pawn with the rook. Because after this, black is already threatening to take anyhow and then play h3. So the g2 pawn is doomed. Alright. So therefore, he goes forward. Well, the plan is to distract the black king and win the pawn on h5. This is how white rook gets into play. Continue. This. e6. There. Takes. Right, the pawn is eliminated. White goes king f4. On the face of it, it looks like white should be able to get the job done. And when I started looking at this position, I thought, oh yeah, white should be winning. Then I turned on the computer, and the computer showed that white is +2 something, +3. And I almost like discard this line. I almost discarded it. But then, just out of curiosity, I looked at the computer lines and I saw something that I have seen before, very many times. Yeah, it's +2 and 0.68, plus whatever, +3, and then back to +2.4 something. And the main thing is that white's going around in circles. He's not making any visible progress in the next 10 or 12 moves. You know what it means. It means that we have one of those positions where it may be impossible to win, despite the appearances and despite the very generous computer evaluation. Alright, let's see how it plays out. Say king f6. No, it doesn't even matter where you go. You can start with this. Now what? So the king comes to g5, right? So if we simply attack this knight, the knight can go to e3. So we need to find some kind of a combination of an attack on the knight, followed by a check that would throw the black king away from the support of the f4 pawn. Maybe it's this. But so, the critical thing for black is not to move the pawn from b6. There is no rook c5 check. We go over there. He can probably stay. Maybe black should play a5. Now, a5 actually doesn't hurt him. Now, you say, what's the problem? I'm just going to attack the b6 pawn. In this situation, maybe you don't. Maybe there is this. We shouldn't forget about this trick. Goes there. Okay, it's a possibility. Maybe this does it, right? And then rook comes to g8. Maybe not. So, this, right? Is rook g8 forced? I'm sure it is. Now I attack. Where are the squares for the rook on the g file? I can only see g5. And I attack again. Now you say easy, and you do this, and I say, well, easy. Easy for black. Knight d5 check. You can't step on the g file, and if you take the knight, I queen. Who wins now? The tournament is over. USA won. 4 rounds in. Now, right, they beat India today, which is good. But aside of India, there is China, and then I think Russia may have lost today, right? Yakovenko and Kramnik, they both lost. Nepomniachtchi won. What happened in Karyakin's game on board 1? I bet it was a draw. I think it's 28 soon, and you tend to speak too soon. Even Wesley, no, it appears to be in good form. No, but it was just the start of the tournament. We don't know. Well, it's a long way to go. The US is not yet firing on all cylinders. We yet to see a good game from Nakamura and all that. No. Besides, they practically playing with 4 players. And I don't know. The US team is probably the favorites, but particularly now since they beat India and Russia stumbled. But Russia is not so good, and I agree with that, and I said this before, that I completely disagree with the choice of players. Once again, they took the safe road of getting proven players, but they proven failures, pretty much. Individually, they seem good with Tugov, Yakovenko, but they just cannot deliver in team tournaments. Well, you really have to have, since they don't really have dominating leaders like they had when Kramnik or whatever, and before that, Kasparov and Karpov, they need to win on lower boards, and these guys just cannot win a lot of games. They need more than one Nepomniachtchi. And Nepomniachtchi, they moved up on board too. Well, I don't know if Kramnik on board 3 had a disaster today. Anyway, let me go back to this. I want to round this up. You see this line, that white actually loses. It goes to show that it's really difficult to win this. Really, really difficult. So he plays a5. Suppose he plays a5 on this position. Yeah, white can start to creeping up there, a3, b3, b4, b5. Remains to be seen if it will make any difference. The key thing, the pawn must remain on b6. Covering, okay, so he waits. a3. And he waits. He shouldn't do this, because he may end up in Zugzwang after rook g1, right? If the king moves, you lose the pawn on f4, and you're not in time. Yeah. Takes and stops the pawn. No, g2 should not be played until white moves the rook out. But some move can be played. Okay, this one. b4, nothing. Oh no, actually not. I need to take. I need to take and then go back. You don't have c5 or a5, the key squares. So where is your check? Maybe you don't have that check. I don't know how to win this. Maybe your computers can find a solution. Yeah, Poland is a decent team, but no, I don't know if these guys on boards 3 and 4 can carry on the way they started. They still rather Tomchak and Perun, they rather no, not household names. No, well, this is all the prognosis, like, I mean, no, it remains to be seen. So far, everything went perfect for the US team, in the sense that they had bad positions, as I said, as early as round 2 against Georgia 3. And but those players were young and not high-rated players. I guess maybe they were happy to make draws, that particularly it was Shankland game. What if Shankland lost that game? I mean, the US is not winning by gigantic margin. Today, Caruana came through, and in this round 3, Wesley came through. But did he have a win? Well, as far as I can tell, no, he didn't. There was no win in that endgame. No, Lamy made a mistake. He missed King D1. Now he cannot give this check, and pretty much the game is over. The e-pawn went forward, and he had to do this. Everything's forced. Resigned. Yeah, what if he went for this knight c2, knight e3? If only because there was nothing else to do. Well, and I gotta tell you something. Well, another game that the US team won in that match against Holland was a bizarre one. Nothing in this game between Shankland and Van Forest indicated that White would win it. I think that was about equal. Sam plays e5. How is he gonna break through? But I suppose that what happened here with the young player Jordan Van Forest was he was eager to help the team. And against his best judgment, he decided that he has to try to win. Which is completely unrealistic, of course, if you look at this position. But only because he thought that Lamy was losing. Instead of just holding his own, I don't see any breakthrough here. I can even play this. You go f4 and whatever, I play f5. There's just no way White can win this. I've seen many endgames where two bishops win, but, well, you need a little bit more room in terms of diagonals and stuff. Here, there's just nothing. Nah. He did this because he had some kind of a... I don't know, illusion, what he may be able to get something going by bringing the knight to c4. And then he played the suicidal move bishop b2. I cannot say anything about the chronological order of this whole thing with the game still going on, the Saw game and this one. But I mean, it's entirely possible because I've seen this before in my experience in team competitions. Exactly the same thing. One guy takes a crazy chance because he thinks his teammate is losing, and then he gets punished and he's losing now, and then his teammate gets up and looks at this and it says, well, what now? It was even just a move ago. How come he's losing? What the heck he just don't do? Comes back to his game and blows it, and then, I mean, we had cases like this. If there is no opposite castling, interesting information. I guess, young players, they get a certain type of position because they play it all the time and they get to be good at that, particularly if it suits their style, and maybe playing against older players who tend to spend a lot of time on blunder. Yeah, obviously, Van Forest is not a complete player yet. No, this is suicidal. Sam just picks up this point easily. Oh, Well, that is not gonna do anything. No. If white... I mean, there are some glimpses of fortress here. Some kind of... some hints, but I mean, if white really plays it badly like this, then I don't know, maybe he can break through. You play f5, he's gonna go g5. But of course Shankman didn't do this. He brings the king over. I think the game continued like this. I don't even have a complete score of it. Yeah, let's do this. You gotta go g5, right? I mean, on this, there is always this, that, and that. And then f4, f5 is gonna break it open. King to h4, and then f4, g4, and f5. Breaks it open and wins. And if he does this, then white will gradually take with the king, and you wait, and then do this, and this, and this, and that. No, well, even if the bishop cannot enter, you know, it's always good to gain a tempo, lose a tempo, whatever you call it. So black has to cede ground and he loses. Allows the white king to come to f6. Forget about this. Game was over. So anyway, this was the margin of victory. I would say a bit of good luck, you know, certainly on part of Sam Shankman, who so far scored a lot of points, but he was lost against a Georgian fellow from Georgia 3, and he had a draw in this game. Well, if this carries on, you know, then indeed, well, then again, you know, like this, going with only 4 players, I'm not sure how they're gonna use Ray Robson. They probably should put him in, you know, to get maybe a game or two, you know, if they get against somewhat weaker opposition. But are they gonna see any weaker opposition? It is hard to tell. Okay. Now anyway, perhaps we should take a look what happened today, right? So this is all from round 3. Let me try to get some. Anyway, do we have updated results here? I'm trying to go back to chess results, you know, and then there are probably still some games going. It's very unfortunate. I hope maybe toward the end of the show, you know, we'll have the updated results. Okay, so what we learned? Israel won, France won, USA won, all by minimum margin. I think Laznichka beat the young Iranian star Masudlu. I don't know what happened in other games, but Navarre is taking a day off because he lost yesterday. Mamedov beat Adams. Don't know about other results. Oh no, Mamedov beat Gawain Jones. Therefore, you know, Azerbaijan keeps on rolling. Pretty decent team they are, with Mamedov leading the way, and Rajabov is still solid, and Arkady Naidich not to be underestimated. China won. Yuan Yi won. Ding won again. Speaking of poor Ding, well, I was told that he's still hobbling, still not fully recovered from the terrible fall of the bike, you know, that happened to him during Norway Chess. This is just such cruel twist of fate. Oh boy. I mean, how could this happen? You're taking a bike ride, you know, which is not the most unusual activity in China, I suppose. And just taking a bike ride during that rest day, and had to have a fall like this and shatter his hip, and was on crutches for a long time, and still he hobbles around, he's months after that, he's still not fully recovered. Terrible, absolutely terrible development. I think we should all wish Ding Liren recovery. Well, it certainly doesn't look like a speedy one, but to be impaired for life because of that. Oh boy. Azerbaijan won, yeah. So Poland won because Karyakin obviously drew. Yeah, the Minister of Defense, they put him on board one to do what? To make draws? That's not carrying the team, that's for sure. The idea was that Kramnik, of course, Kramnik will tear up, on board 3. We'll see how he did today. I saw that game. Let's discuss it. Okay, where is my PGN for that? I had it. Kramnik game I'm showing. Tomchak. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm uploading the Tomchak game. Israel is very underrated. I don't believe, that Israel is gonna do too well. They have a capable team with Rothstein, and you're right, Sutovsky can catch a good streak and surprise because he's an attacking player. But I don't believe that Gelfand can match up against top players anymore. I mean, time is no father time. That it's very hard to argue. Boris certainly he's fighting best way he can, and he is never gonna quit. But the reality is he just doesn't match up with guys like Aronian, Mamediyarov, Caruana, and such anymore. Simply does not. So it's gonna be tough going for Israel. But they're a team with good spirit over there, the good camaraderie. So they kind of pull each other, they help each other. So hopefully good things will happen for them. All right, let's look at this thing. So Kramnik, right? So Kramnik won in style in round 3 against Georgia too. So with black, he got out of the opening, played with no fear, moved pawn of his king, and crushed his opponent. Won a pawn, and nice game, I saw it. The idea is that Kramnik cannot be changed now, right? So Kramnik senses this urgency. He's not gonna play with this reserve style which he played for many years. He's gonna go for it, like he did in Berlin, right? No matter if he plays Caruana tomorrow or whoever, he's not gonna play Caruana, but no, he can play Nakamura. Well, yeah, but they thought, it could only be a Nakamura or any of top guys, who could punish Kramnik for this kind of liberties, right? So the idea was to keep him away from that crowd, the Berlin crowd, and just have him play on lower board. Rules allow that. You can put anybody on any board. And such ploys were used by other teams. Years ago it was Mamediyarov who played lower board 3 for Azerbaijan. There were some other cases. So okay, it worked in round 3, but in round 4, there comes Kramnik. And it almost doesn't matter these days, what Kramnik plays, what opening. His openings are still solid, that, I mean, maybe an occasional foray, somewhere that he shouldn't be ever going, like that Peers that he played against Vasily Ivanchuk in the last round of the London candidates. But those are rare occasions, maybe for a must-win game. But it's not really the opening. At some moment, you can almost bet on Kramnik going off the rails. So he started off in the line that he obviously knows, like, not too many people, because he prepared to face it against Kasparov in the match. Alright, knight d5, and now this move. It's a rare move, but it's gaining some popularity, not because it's so good, simply because white cannot find any advantage after c4. Yeah, Kramnik was winning. No, yeah. Well, we'll get to this. That's exactly the point. Well, but that's exactly the point. Of course, he has great instincts, and he will play a lot of good moves, but when the position goes on this full tilt, well, still, there's no substitute for accurate calculation. And that's what Kramnik is not always capable of. He has those slip-ups, senior moments, if you wish. And I know senior moments. I'm a senior. I'm actually World Team Senior Champion as part of the US team. We won the Senior Team Championship in Dresden. So I know seniors. I speak as a senior. Jesus. Oh, I'm so proud of it. Anyway, the move h4. It was played by Nepomniachtchi and some others. The point is this outrageous rook development, because the black bishop often gets diverted to the other side. Now, f6. I think f6 is a standard move here. Okay, let me try to find my analysis. I won't be able to navigate this thing without my analysis. It's somewhere here. Hang on a second. Let's not be in a hurry. Kramnik. Yeah, I got it. Just moving some windows over on my monitors. Yeah. Okay, f6. Yeah, the purpose of f6, of course, is to attack the center. Sorry about that. I grabbed for the wrong thing. c4, knight b6. Now, yeah, you can take and there and play rook h3. Aronian played this as black. It's still a little strange development of the rook. It will come to e3, but how good is the e3 square? I don't know, unclear. I guess Kramnik didn't want it. For sure he knows about f6. So he played queen e6. And then g3. And now he plays this move. It's a great move. Possibly this part was preparation. So maybe queen e6 was determined to be the best move. Now this is the point. So the bishop goes to a6. It's almost the same thing, but now the black knight is more active on b4. It's either active on b4 or dead, depending on the outcome of this a3 move, right? But a3 here wasn't played. And the question is why? We need some answers. We need to establish if Kramnik was really winning. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. There will be a few important moments in this game. We start with the move a3. Now I suppose the idea is to take on c4, right? And now the knight goes there. King d1. What do we have here? B4, right? We need to trap that knight. Well, A5, standard counterplay. We don't know if this knight can be trapped or not. It could come at the cost. I suppose this is the main line of analysis. No, in this situation, it's just too many pawns, right? We give 2 pawns and it's pretty strong passer. Yeah, 3 pawns. Black somehow retained all 8 pawns. Probably not so great. Alright, different move. Bishop f4. Different move. Bishop f4. And then d5. Obviously, capture on d6 is impossible because of knight c2 check, so we don't worry about that. So he plays a3 now, now comes bishop takes, and black wins a pawn. We skim through this automatically. Funny thing is, Kramnik already made a serious mistake with the move bishop takes f1. It's all about the knight on b4, right? Now, he's not losing it because he can move it to a6, but a6 is a bad square. And that allows white to complete his development, and he will have compensation for the pawn. Of course, queen g6 had to be played. Aiming at the check and aiming at knight c2 or knight d3. Castles. And knight d3. Now black does look better. No, he's threatening to win that bishop on f4. He has a very strong knight, and forget about triple pawns. One of them is an extra pawn anyhow. Play bishop c5 as quick as you can, castle, and then, well, attack the pawn on e5, get the rooks in the middle. You can take the pawn on b2 as well, because likely white is gonna go queen f3, but black is better here. I think what happens in Kramnik's chess, it's rather alarming, and I feel bad for him, but I mean, a lot of players experience that as they get older. You simply cannot withstand this pressure of calculating and tension of calculating on every move. When you put your mind to it, you can still do it, you can still calculate, everything's there. You just simply don't have the stamina to go through this, and at some moment you just can't help it, but you cut yourself a little slack. You say, oh, it's obvious now, I'm doing good here. I stand well, you know, I can just play one move quickly. And usually that one move that you play quickly turns out a mistake, sometimes a decisive, as a gigantic blunder, like the opponent, the computer plays queen h7 mate. Or sometimes it's just a mistake that loses the initiative and opens a can of worms that then you have to deal with. That's what happened here, the move bishop takes f1. It's a very bad move. So king takes, I had to go back. Now, maybe knight c3 isn't best. Well, I thought knight d2, bring the knight to f3, get the pieces over there, and you have some chances on the king side. I mean, black, of course, would like to get the knight out of there, so the only square is c5. But then there are some issues, right? After this, and then maybe rook c1 with the c6 pawn. And that knight should be taken the e6 square, but e6 is occupied by the queen. White actually may go rook c1 and then b4 and try to win that pawn back. Hi, moving Dutchman. Good to see you. So knight c3 just looks off. It's an obvious move, but it looks off. The knight doesn't really have any prospects. Should be coming toward the king side or yf3 to d4, depending. So not a good move from Tomchak. So Kramnik's doing fine now. And now he is, well, calculating. Working real well in this game. Does this. What's the difference between Anand and Kramnik at this stage of their careers? Obviously, Kramnik is 5 years junior to Visha Anand. But he seems as affected, if not more, by this aging process and those things that I described. How does Anand deal with that? He simplifies his game. Yeah, he didn't succeed today, and no, things went wrong in some moment, and no, then he abandons the game. Now plays a couple of moves, resigns. Even the position where he resigned, he was up a pawn, he was losing already, but no. Some spectators would like to see how Caruana wins, but no. Instead, they saw resignation. But that's Anand's approach. No, right. Well, it's not like he loses every game. He's 27-71 and won a very nice couple of games early in this tournament. My point is that Anand would have played queen d5 here. And ironically, a Kramnik of 20 years ago would have played queen d5. The younger Kramnik had the patience and belief in his ability to win endgames like this. And he would avoid unnecessary risk. The Kramnik of today, he doesn't want to play long games. He doesn't have the confidence in his skills, endgame skills, and winning long endgames like he always had. And that's bad. It's called erosion of basic skills. That leads, to this. So when we admire Kramnik going crazy the way he did in literally every game in Berlin, it's not only, his choice in a sense that he wants to win and he wants to win now. Yeah, nobody minds winning. I don't mind winning too. But it also probably an outcome of the certain confidence crisis in his ability to win chess games the way he used to win them. After queen d5, clearly, black's for choice. Yeah, white can do what? Bishop e3, protect that pawn. King d7, rook c1, rook b8, take, c6, bishop e7, invade with your rooks on the b file. Just advantage to black, because white's king side will never gonna do anything. That white's bishop is purely a defensive piece. You infiltrate with rooks and make threats, and you just stand better. And in this situation, facing a young player from Poland, rather unknown, barely over 2600, aren't we supposed to see a Kramnik endgame masterpiece? No, the ability, no, he probably questions his ability to win endgames like this, which was the cornerstone of his chess ever since he was a very young player. So he doesn't know, therefore he doesn't have confidence in playing moves like queen d5. And then everybody is always deluding themselves. You could tell in Kramnik's press conferences, how he speaks so highly about his position, and almost every time I was winning here, I was winning there. So his opponents, which are some of the top players, they just can barely suppress a laugh. Oh, but I mean, this is all talk that is, I don't know, to mask, his confidence crisis. People that are truly confident, like Caruana is confident now, or Carlsen, no matter what, he's confident, right? Well, they don't need to speak of that. Oh, I'm winning here anyhow. I could play this and win. I could play that and win. No, they are rather opposite of that. They're very generous. They say, oh, I wasn't sure about this. I thought that opponent had this, this, and that. Well, Kramnik never speaks this way. So he goes rook d8. All right. And there it goes. He actually played very well. He didn't play g6 here. And he allowed the pawn to come to h6, which is brave. But he has this. So somehow White, who's not coordinated very well, and has to deal with that queen, strong queen on d5, doesn't get to attack. However, Black's advantage is not really that great here. I mean, White could just take this, right? I mean, still, Black has kind of broken pawns, right? And the back rank problem. He can't really attack with both rooks and win the f2 pawn. Best he can do is to win the a3 pawn, but then it's a long way to go. And White can drum up some counterplay. But for that, White had to play queen takes c6. Not because he's so greedy to win the pawn, but he had to get rid of that queen on d5. Instead, no, understandably, the young player wants to attack on the h-file. And I suppose Kramnik was happy to see that. So he does this good move, the rook should come to g6. And then bishop g5. Right, probably, yeah, this is the point where you can say that Kramnik was winning. And it wasn't really that difficult to find in the sense that the moves are logical. And it happens to be that rook takes d8 is impossible because of rook takes g3 followed by mate. Now, did Vladimir miss that? Normally he shouldn't be missing things like this. But he played a different move. Now, I don't know the time situation still at that moment in the game, but I don't think that he had a whole lot of time. So he attacks mate and rook h2 defense. And now he moves the rook to d5. Once again, so he played queen a2 to clear out what seemed to him a good square. Now, this is instantly a losing move. Instantly. The queen a2 was already a mistake. He moved his queen out of the best position into a strange position. Yet, if he spotted White's threat, he would have played rook d4. Obviously, the main thing is not to allow the white queen to A, to come to f8, there would be mate on the spot, and B, attack the h7 pawn. Here on queen f3, Black has queen d5. No, well, queen f5, then queen e4, queen h5, then queen e4. Black appears to be okay here. I don't know if he's better anymore, I'm not sure about it, but maybe he's not. Maybe it's rather drawish here. Likely this move would force massive trades. Takes. I don't know, F takes, right? Now I'm gonna take on d4 and play bishop f6. I can play bishop f6 and you're forced to do this. Okay, we can already see that this game cannot be anything but a draw. It will be. Rook a5, so on. Once again, a stretch where Kramnik calculates and can see everything, just like the young Kramnik. And then he gets tired, time gets low. Let me play on general grounds because my experience should carry me through. No, well, it carries you through to defeat. Checkmate threatening. Capture on h6, h7 is unavoidable. h6 the only move. And now that bishop just comes back. No, child's play. Mate. On the board, queen h7 again. It is alarming, honestly, what's happening with Vladimir Kramnik. And I certainly hope, that he brushes it off, because the Russian team needs him, and we need Kramnik. In some ways, the struggling, tormented Kramnik, the way he plays, is one of the most entertaining factors in modern chess. Obviously, we follow World Championship and Carlsen Caruana and all that, but no, Kramnik. Which Kramnik is gonna show up today? We don't know. Alright, guys. So, I'm glad we had this talk. Let me take one more look, maybe the updated chess results. I don't want to go to... Okay, we got some updates over there. Let's check this out. I didn't quite get it. Okay, I will reset it. I didn't quite get the whole thing. I guess when they update, when they... let me capture part of the screen so we can see everything. I want us to see everything. I want to see everything myself. Okay, now looking good, right? So we have France and strength of Bauer's win on the last board. A lot of people just forgot about Christian Bauer. I remember I played him. He was always a good player. He's not a youngster anymore, but his rating is nothing special, but he can play. So he scored an important victory for his team. First half point surrendered by Vasheva Graf. Grandelius beat Gelfand, but then the other guys came through. Smirin won. That was a mysterious game to me, but no, I haven't seen Rothstein and Nabati games. Maybe they won in more convincing fashion, but win is a win. The US team moves on thanks to success of Fabiana Caruana, which is very nice. Czech Republic defeats Iran. Surprisingly, it was Masudlo, the star, who lost today, but Laznichka is a pretty good player of his own. Czech Republic rested today their leader David Navarro. Stochek's experience. Mikalik I'm not familiar with, but for sure he can play. But, and the old hand Zbigniew Krachek. I played this guy in the 1994 Olympiad in Moscow. No, well, he's still there. Azerbaijan, crushing win. Rajabov played very well. I saw parts of this game. I didn't see the end of it. Defeated Luke McShane. Well, fans of the English team, have some self-searching to do. I mean, clearly Mickey, I actually had this game prepared, Mamediyarov Adams. Clearly it's difficult for Mickey Adams to stay against guys like Mamediyarov. I mean, 13 years his junior and on the upswing, just difficult for Mickey to hold a complex position. So he went down, and the rest of the team didn't help. China decisively defeated Croatia that has some capable players, particularly Ivan Šarić, but Ding won again. Yuan Yi is having a fantastic tournament now that Bu came up. So the Chinese players already suffered some individual losses. I saw a loss by Li Chao, a huge upset. He lost to a 2200 player, I believe. And then Wei Yi lost his game. No, but so far they're marching on. Good win today for the Chinese team. Levon Aronian won a long technical endgame, but Armenia was winning anyway against Greece. Ukraine won. Once again, what's going on with Pavel Ilyanov? He's nowhere near where he was. The guy was 2760 and playing Norway chess and all that. Oh, but the Ukraine can probably withstand, I mean, they have a strong team. Well, Korobov on board 4. They also have Ruslan Ponomarev, who didn't play in today's match. And then the big upset, the Russians. Minister of Defense holds with black pieces. Well, mission accomplished. Nepomniachtchi wins. Nepomniachtchi is playing well again. He had a winning advantage in their previous match and kind of blew it, but came back and won today, beat Wojtaszek. But Kramnik and Yakovenko, what a disaster. Yakovenko with white. Somehow, I didn't see the whole game. He was struggling to survive with rook against 2 minor pieces. Kamil Dragun had showed good technique to win it. Anyway, so let me round this up. You guys have followed this tournament, and looking ahead. No, Short plays now for the whole world. He plays for all of us. Yeah, Nigel. Don't know. Don't want to talk about the elections, I'm rather depressed with choices. I mean, Nigel would be an interesting choice, of course, but realistically, no, that is just... There's just some baggage over there. And Nigel tweets, Nigel talks, Nigel is Nigel. Really, he is... there's too much Trump, in Nigel. more Trump than Trump himself, So that's... It's not only the conservatism of the delegates and all that, Really, I mean... I myself, I would vote for Nigel given the choices that we have, but I mean, there are other chess players, other great chess players, and that I think would make a better FIDE president. My vote goes for Vladimir Kramnik. Rather than watch Kramnik blundering the way he blundered in that position with checkmate on the board, I want to see Kramnik, as FIDE president. That would exactly be his right man for this. Everything there, name recognition, manners, languages and all that, and well dressed, no. I mean, I don't know. Besides, okay, maybe I'm biased, but this is the man I would like to see the most as FIDE president. Anyway, alright guys, I have to sign off, I got work to do. Oh, Nigel Short ever doesn't complains and whines about what other players do wrong. Okay, this is all. I can do the same thing, right? I mean, notice, I do not self-nominate for FIDE presidency. I don't think I have the people skills for that. But I believe Kramnik does. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.